Since both horses are target trained, I can't do this as a target training tutorial. However, I can tell you that to shape the target in the first place, you would just gradually reward any interest in the target and then eventually reward the following of the target once they understand what they're doing. So anyways, Milo is already target trained, and in this one I was just kind of working with keeping him calm because he gets easily frustrated with Liberty stuff, and then also rewarding all these calm attempts and getting him used to not walking right beside me or behind me, because he often likes to walk exactly where I'm walking when we're doing this stuff at Liberty and doesn't like to move very far away. So I was just working on keeping him at my shoulder or further and teaching him to stay back, and then also using the tarp for fun.
Good boy. Come on.
Teach the whistle recall. I would start off with teaching them to target first, because then they'll naturally want to follow you, and then once you do that, you can add in the whistle when you're trying to get them to approach, and then eventually they'll understand the whistle cue. So when Milo stands away from me, I whistle to recall him, and then he starts coming because he's been consistently rewarded following the whistle if he does come back to me, and he knows to do so because I'm holding the target, so he naturally has the desire to follow me more so than he might in other circumstances, because he could be hanging out and eating grass along the side of the arena and doing his own thing. So I just kept his interest by rewarding him for this stuff. Another way to easily reinforce the whistle outside of training is to use it before you give your horse dinner or some form of treat, or just a reward when you're first arriving to see them. And then they'll naturally want to come approach you when they hear the whistle, because they'll be used to it predicting a nice reward. Also, you might notice that Milo has mud all over him. I didn't bother brushing him because it's wet mud, so he just gets to be dirty for this video.
Good boy. Back up.
I do really short bursts of trot with Milo, because if I do them too long or get too far away from him, he gets frustrated and then puts on his big snark face, and I'm trying to keep this very positive and reward him for having a nice expression when he's not getting frustrated, because he doesn't really like it when the food runs away from him. So that's also why the recall is a fun game, because then he's not as frustrated when he's coming after me, because he knows that the recall provides him with a reward. So what I do during a Liberty session when I want him to recall rather than immediately follow me is I'll walk further away from him and then faster, and I've done this a few times with him, so he knows when I walk away fast that it's usually because I'm going to recall, so he'll wait before coming, and then I recall, do the whistle, and then he comes trotting and gets his reward. The tarp is just a fun touch to do at Liberty because it has them approach something that horses typically from without training won't naturally want to approach, because tarps flap, they make noise, they can look like water, and horses have bad depth perception. So a lot of horses don't particularly like tarps. So doing these exercises at Liberty helps instill confidence in your horse and make them want to follow you and trust to follow you over spooky things. And even though you're doing it over a tarp, the more you do exercises like this, the more confidence you'll build, and you'll build that desire for them to follow you, even in times where they might be a little bit fearful about where you're asking them to go. Is the type of horse that is pretty sensitive to loud noises, and while he's not overly spooky, he doesn't really like to approach things that he's a little bit fearful of, and he'll tolerate them at a distance, but he's not always super keen at walking over or right beside things or having things like a tarp touch him. But today he went over the tarp right away, which was really nice. There was never any hesitation for it, and he was a little bit nervous to trot over it initially, but then he did it anyways, and then after a few repetitions of doing that, it builds his confidence, which is really good, because the more stuff he does like this, the easier he is to work with in times where I haven't had the opportunity to introduce whatever he might be fearful of or whatever he doesn't want to go near or over, and so on and so forth.
Good boy. Okay, let's see.
A lot of the things I reward him for in the session might seem like they're really small things, but a lot of the times that I reward him, I'm actually just rewarding him for his expression and then the attempt to follow me. Because like I said, he's not the type of horse that really appreciates it when I move away from him. He'd rather me stay right beside him, and he doesn't like me running or dancing and doing stuff like that. So I'm rewarding the expression to promote a positive expression and an enjoyment of this rather than frustration. And I don't want to make him do too much at a time, because then I'll blow it and get that moment of frustration, and then it's not something that I want to reward, but he still did the thing. So it's better for me just to not create frustration in the first place, which is why he gets rewarded on a more consistent treat schedule and for small things, or at times that might seem random, because it'll be when he's coming out of frustration and taking away that frustrated face and having a more positive expression. I ended our session here because he did have that moment of frustration while he was trotting, and then he put on a happy face when he got to me, so I was really happy with that because he relaxed and let down from the frustration. So that was the end. So Banksy is turning 2 in May, so he's almost a full 7 years younger than Milo. So you'll notice that his level of mental maturity is significantly lower because he really likes to play. So my biggest challenge when working with him is keeping his energy level down and trying to get him to relax a little bit more, and also teaching him to go farther away from me, which is why I have the long target stick here, is because I'm trying to get him to move farther and farther away from me, because eventually it'll be the cue for him to know how to lunge once he starts lunging on a line, and he'll be used to moving away from me on a circle. So I try to keep him away for that reason, and then also for safety, because when he does get big and want to play, I don't want to be right beside him. So that's the other thing, is it's not a bad thing if he plays sometimes, but I want it to be controlled and not in my space or dangerously close to me. Banksy after a hailstorm, so the tarp actually had water puddles on him, so it was tarp level expert for him, so I didn't do that much with the tarp because he wasn't super comfortable with it. He was good to walk over it and whatnot, but he just avoided the tarp more than he typically would with something that he's getting rewarded to cross. So he was a little nervous, even though he was totally willing to follow me over it at the walk and whatnot. He just didn't practice his usual behavior of being completely excited and ecstatic to keep touching it and doing tarp things, and that was because it had puddles on it, so it was a little bit more scary than what Milo had to deal with. And again with Banksy, sometimes it'll look like I'm not rewarding very much. Like right here, he's a little bit distracted because he's looking at his friends, but he was walking really nice and calmly and further away from me. So that's a big reward for him, because as I said, the calm and not getting over exuberant and wanting to play is something that he really struggles with. So it's really working on trying to get him to contain himself, and if he absolutely needs to have a playful moment, to do it out of my space and away from me. And then I've also been working on a bit of recall with him. I don't really say anything other than his name at this point. I haven't whistled for him because he doesn't know the whistle, and generally speaking, when I'm recalling him, it's because he got distracted by something and decided to go chasing a dog down the fence line or do something else, like staring at the filly that's across the way from the arena. So usually when I call him, it's to try to get his attention again, and I am still using the target to get him to come to me. Banksy loves the target, and he's very good at it, and he's generally pretty consistent with following it and whatnot. And this is because I've used the target a lot with him to get him to stop climbing his friends when he's ponying, or learn not to turn his head into me when he's walking, or to learn not to look at the girls when he's walking past the paddocks full of fillies and mares, because he usually likes to stop and look. He doesn't do anything steady, but I don't even want him looking because I just don't want to give him an excuse, and there's no reason for him to interact with him. So that's kind of why I have the target so much with him, and why he is more consistent and doing more things with it than Milo was. So Banksy loves trotting or cantering after the target. This is his preferred thing to do over walking. Like sometimes he'll literally do a Western pleasure jog right beside me as slow as he would walk, and he thinks that's the same thing, and it's not. He just gets really excited about it. So a lot of what we do was working on getting him to walk, but I did want to try to get him to trot the tarp, and when he went around it, it was just an indicator that he was more afraid of it than he typically was, because before he didn't have a problem with it because there wasn't any puddles on it. So then again, we're practicing the calm walk, walk, rewarding the calm walk, facing away from me, not shoving his shoulder into me, not trying to trot ahead, not snaking his head and striking out and playing like he likes to sometimes do at the target, which isn't a terrible thing, but I do love that calm walk, and that's what I'm arguably rewarding the most with him most sessions, is just getting the calm walk and halt and having him stay in his lane.
That was a lot.
Yeah. He thinks it's soccer. He's supposed to strike the ball.
The end of our session is when I typically do trot and canter stuff,
Does he
because I don't
back
like to
up
do a
on
ton of
command
it
like
because
that
like I
too?
said, he gets very excited. So I try to keep his energy level low, and I'm
Oh, you
sure
don't
you'll
use the
notice that
thingy,
he's
okay,
trying
yeah.
to play a lot. And then here I'm doing my backup, and it looks like my hand is on his neck, but it's not. I just walk towards him and say back as my backup cue, and he'll do it at liberty pretty easily. He's really soft for it because I've done it lots with him again, and I just keep my hand on standby for the treat pocket to praise it, because a lot of horses don't like backing me back so well that he gets rewarded well. He offers me nice contained trots like that. He gets rewarded really well, and I like to keep a few high value rewards in my pocket, like carrot, apple, or these special treats that he really likes. And it's just because it's so hard for him to not play all the time, and he's always constantly playing and trying to do stuff in the field, so it's a very natural behavior for him, and keeping calm is hard for him. So I like to reward any bit of calm, which this isn't, as you can see, but he stayed far away from me. It looks like he's closer than he is, and he went away to keep playing, so that's still a win. But I don't reward him immediately. I wait till he does a couple calm steps and then reward, because I don't want him doing so much up behavior. Here he gave me some calm trot and then almost broke to canter, so I brought him back down immediately and then rewarded there, because if he went to canter he probably would have been more excitable, or he would have done too many strides of canter, so I wanted to stop while he's ahead. And then here he actually surprised me by offering yielding his hindquarters behavior, which I haven't really worked on with him, so I was quite surprised by that, and I was happy about that.
He did a little bum up. It was cute and silly. Was that a little up bum? Bum up? Sassy.
I'm sure you notice his little shenanigans in playtime. He's trying so hard to keep it together, so I like to reward him immediately following any little bit of calm he offers me after his playful behaviors, and I try to reward him fairly frequently, especially since he's a baby, to avoid frustration, and also make sure I'm not trying to do too much and then blow it by having him do something bad and not rewarding before it. There he had a moment, but he reeled it in really fast, so I like to reward. And then this part, he actually really surprised me, because he started offering another behavior that's super positive that I haven't really taught to him, but he started targeting the stick here and moving sideways and offering a side pass, or what will eventually be a leg yield under saddle. And that's huge, because I've never worked on that really with him, and he just learned it from following the target at the angle that it was on, so that was a huge reward.
Your quiet balls. Tuck them up, tuck them away, and just do a nice gelding canter.
So with the canter, even if he only offers me 1 or 2 calm strides, I try to bring him back and reward it right away, and that's because it doesn't give him a chance to get too excited and blow it. And then again there, that was just him yielding his hind quarter towards the target again, which I reward, because that's like super close to what I will be expecting him to do with when I'm teaching more lateral work eventually, and he's offering it naturally, which is huge.
Oh, good. What was that, Tranter?
Yes. He says I trant even. Get it, Banksy.
You're so cute, baby. Whole body.
So still with the canter, I reward really small segments of it, because he wasn't being consistently calm with canter strides before, and here you can see he has a little bit of a moment, but it's way more reined in and calm, and then he offers me a bunch of calm strides after, and while it's not perfect and we still have the head toss there at the end, he's having fun and enjoying himself, and he's starting to reel it back and focus more and be more calm, which is really good. So where I've been reinforcing has been working.
Wow. That, oh my God, he crossed over on
And
the
then
line
he offered me like the
everything.
most perfect side pass towards the target stick ever, which is really good because like I said, it's not something I've reinforced or worked on a ton with him.
Einstein.
So I was super proud. And then we finished with this really lovely quiet canter circle around me, and he really keeps it together. He has a
Oh,
moment
that's
where
a
he
good
wants to get a little bit
canter.
excited,
Good
but that was perfect. I'm
boy.
really happy with that. He did an
So
awesome job, and it was
smart.
a super positive training session. I'm so proud of
Yes,
him.
man. Yep.